Will the Big Ten actually punish Michigan? Well, it's 1:07 in the PM, so it kind of feels like maybe that's not happening. Give you a little, I don't know if it's intel. This is going to feel a little bit more reactionary than maybe some of the other episodes, but we will discuss everything Michigan has done to get to this point and where everything kind of goes from here in the battle against the Big Ten when it comes to the potential disciplinary action of Jim Harbaugh on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Thursday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I am your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. At this point, we are in a holding pattern. We're not in a place where we definitely know what is going to happen, right? Because now everything, the Big Ten has Michigan's response. It is thorough. Both Jim Harbaugh as well as Michigan, the University of Michigan, have sent over their respective 10 pages of argument, I guess, against everything. And it's pretty thorough as far as I can see. It's, listen, so what you kind of learn coming out of it from what I read the Ward Manual letter. I only saw the summary of the Jim Harbaugh letter, but it is very much like, all right, Connor Stalions is gone. A lot of the things that you are saying are evidence are things that you have not seen yourself. You're basing things off of rumor and conjecture and all of these things. And also, here are some specific bylaws. You're not giving us an opportunity towards due process, and your own bylaws say that has to happen. It says that if an NCAA has started an investigation, that you need to let that play its course. All these different things that I think make a compelling argument. Now, Pete Thamel reported earlier this morning that at the moment, it does not appear that there is, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, it does not appear that there's any known timetable as to when any potential discipline could come down. I had heard from one of my good sources late last night, they were 100%, well, I would say 99% sure that something was going to happen today, and they were ready to go with the injunction and all of those things if need be. But they said that they had heard that the Big Ten is at least going to punt into next week. If nothing else, Tony Petitti has been given a lot of things to think about. And I think that you can see that with just the fact that they aren't making an obvious decision. When I say obvious, I mean that was what was expected, right? It was expected to come around noonish, and that didn't happen. So, I mean, it could still happen. He could have a complete change of heart. He could be bolstered by something else. I don't know of anything else on the Michigan side. I know that there's Ohio State people that, again, have been intimating over the last, I think they're more board poster type people rather than insiders, the type of people that brought you the news of all this a good month before it actually happened. But I don't believe that there is anything else. Could there be? Absolutely. There could be stuff that I don't know. But as far as the things that I know, and I've been, I think, vested with enough, and I do believe that Michigan doesn't believe there's anything else. So that's where we stand as far as that is concerned. And I think that the biggest power move was Michigan getting the support of 11 state of Michigan lawmakers. Now, I had heard that there was some thought, I don't know if they did or not, of reaching out to Dana Nessel, Michigan's attorney general, and seeing what if she would get involved in this, a la Tennessee. I don't know if that happened or not, but nonetheless, to me, that looks like maybe that was the product of that. Like, okay, we're going to get a bipartisan group of 11, and that's, I know, a fraction of the Michigan House legislature, but it is still, and it came with a very thinly veiled threat. I'm going to read you said very thinly veiled threat, because, I mean, it was pretty obvious about what that was, right? So, I mean, the whole thing reads more so as just like you typical politics speak. Like, in the legislature, we pass laws to ensure every citizen and organization in Michigan is guaranteed their rights to due process under the law. These principles of justice should also be followed by the Big Ten Conference. You know, all of that kind of stuff. You know, typical, almost boilerplate political stuff. But the last sentence, which is the last paragraph, says, Should you, as the commissioner of the Big Ten Conference, rush to judgment or engage in any ill-considered actions, we will vigorously support our public universities in their efforts to compel fairness and due process. Now, certainly this has drawn the ire of a lot of Spartan fans who want to see Michigan punished. You know, you have to remember when you're seeing these types of things, it wouldn't matter if any like evidence came out that was like, look, Michigan's completely exonerated. Look, it's a witch hunt. All the things that we've talked about here. They could have all the evidence in the world. They don't care. They want to see Michigan punished. That's what they think. But there's a lot of pushback of like, my state legislature is doing this. Like, you know, this, they don't have better, you know, they have other things they could be doing. Listen, it's materially hurting the University of Michigan is within the interest of the state legislature, just like it should also be with with Michigan State. Well, they didn't wait for due process with the tunnel incident. Listen, that was a different scenario in terms of it was assault. It was on video, right? Like you didn't have to fully wait for due process in terms of, okay, we're going to at least suspend guys. And as far as this, in the terms of what actually happened with Michigan, well, they suspended Connor Stalions immediately. So it's quite similar. In that sense, I understand you want Jim Harbaugh also suspended. Jim Harbaugh, as the NCAA said, there's no known connection to him and and Connor Stalions' scheme. And if you've been watching or listening to us for the last 2.5 weeks, then we've told you the same thing with a pretty strong degree of certainty. So you know, people want to throw the baby out with the bathwater a lot of times, and people want to, act like Michigan's done nothing. Well, Michigan suspended Connor Stalions, and Connor eventually resigned. And there are people that question that, and people want to throw a lot of other things into the mix. You know, you see pictures of Blake Corum in his car and all of that stuff with the LLC. That's a whole nothing burger. Ultimately, people are going to jump to conclusions, Matt, and they're going to go and they're going to do whatever they're going to do, and you just kind of have to live with it. But it does feel like Michigan is in a really good place at the moment, and that is welcome news. As much as I think all of us want to see kind of what happens if Michigan is pushed all the way, honestly, the best case scenario is that doesn't happen, okay? We're going to continue to get into all of that, why that's the best case scenario, in just a moment. But first, we spend a lot of time talking together, you and I. We get fired up together on wins and losses, who starts and who sits. I'm thankful for that connection that we have. And today I want our chat to be a little more personal. I just learned that you can get a 1-year supply on ED medications. You realize what that means. Being on extended travel, bring on the next natural disaster or supply chain issue. You are covered, my friend. You don't have to worry about whether or not you can refill your generics for Cialis, Viagra, or Rivalto prescription. And this is possible because of our friends at Jase Medical. Go online right now to jasemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. You remember to use your promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. A verified customer had this to say about Jase. I am thankful for this service. Supply chain issues caused me to cut pills and have to have it. I ordered most of my daily meds with a year's supply. I also ordered an antibiotic kit. I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies. I highly recommend this for everyone, end quote. If you or someone you love would like to get some peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily med, go to jasemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember to use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your purchase. I've got the antibiotics kit for Sarah and the boys. It is a godsend. Highly recommend you do the same. All right, yesterday on Wednesday's show, I gave you my very strong, informed opinion of what Michigan may or may not be discussing, okay? And I see a lot of you on the message boards having similar discussions amongst yourselves about what should happen if the Big Ten does indeed try to suspend Jim Harbaugh indefinitely. But I would say, in my eyes, if any, even if it's a single game, I think that completely erodes all trust. Now, obviously, there's the other option other than potentially leaving the Big Ten and going whatever route Michigan would decide to go, whether it's to another conference or independent I think that the other option would be Tony Petitti. Good night and good luck. I would imagine that is probably going to be on the table regardless of what happens here. Certainly, if he does not do anything to Michigan and says we all just need to take a break here, then I would imagine he's going to draw the ire of some other teams, and some other teams are certainly going to be continue to be drawn into this as this fight goes on. And Bruce Feldman released his thing. It wasn't a Big Ten guy. It was Dave Clawson of Wake Forest saying he went to the NCAA because of the whole WikiLeaks situation. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but highly recommend going and reading Bruce's article on that and how the NCAA apparently has selective enforcement. Obviously, the battle right now is not between the NCAA and Michigan. It is a battle. It is a war that is going on. But there is a separate war, or maybe just a major battle against the NCAA, completely different front. The Big Ten rather, completely different front than the one that we were talking about earlier. So it's a situation that Michigan is trying to get under control, obviously. But as much as I want to see what scorched earth looks like at its fullest extent, it is in everybody's best case scenario that it doesn't go that way. Now, Michigan's going to continue to investigate who the private investigators were, follow the paper trail, and there will be something about that comes out at some point. I had heard before, maybe potentially as soon as this week. I don't know if that's going to happen. I would also say, and that's a separate deal, I would also say keep close eye on The Athletic, because supposedly they have something that they've uncovered, not on Michigan, but another school. So I don't know the veracity of what it is, but stay tuned as far as that's concerned. We'll see if that has those names I mentioned. We'll see if it has up some other stuff. I don't know exactly what it is, but we're just kind of going to play the waiting game there. But we don't want to see, as much as it would be fun to go through more chaos to some degree, it would be fun to see what happens if Michigan is pushed all the way with their back completely square and against the wall. But that's not a good scenario either, because you want to be able to try to keep the status quo to the best degree. And in this case, the best case scenario for Michigan would be that the Big Ten does nothing and Tony Petitti is out, because it is clear that he is irreparably damaged his relationship with Michigan, even just what's happened so far. And if he does, in fact, completely backtrack and finds a way to get out of it, well, then he's going to, there's going to be other people that don't trust him as well. It should have never gotten to this point, is kind of the purpose of this, is what I'm saying here. Now, I had heard from one of my really good sources on all of this that they had heard that Petitti, even before he got Michigan's response, I mean, it was a full-throated response. I mean, it was, I think he expected to that he was bringing a knife to a gunfight, and then found out that Michigan just pointed a bunch of nuclear missiles straight at his face, is kind of what this is. And I mean, I shouldn't even say nuclear. It's probably just more missiles, and they have some nuclear missiles kind of in wait. Some of those things very well could be divulged at some point. Some of them might not ever see the light of day. You have to remember, with everything that we talk about here, not everything that I'm telling you, things that I know, not everything is going to come to light. And you're going to say, well, Isaiah, why don't you tell me, when everything's done? No, because they're going to hold on to some of those cards that they're playing, right? You don't always tell everyone your strategy, so like that, there are pieces that I know, and there are pieces that I've just been intimated about, hey, we have a little something, if something, it's not said that casually, but if this whole thing goes awry, right? So, the best case scenario for Michigan is to not find itself with its back fully against the wall, with having to get an injunction and all of that. Like I said, part of me really wants to see that, because I think it'd be interesting to see just how far Michigan goes. You have everybody on the same page. And here's an interesting part of that. The Jim Harbaugh contract is almost certainly going to get signed now. I was talking to a colleague of mine, and it's funny because if the Big Ten would have left well enough alone, the faction within Michigan still might have been enough, even with like the contract extension. Just if they would have just let the process play out, there was a pretty good chance, whether it's the NCAA or even just the factions within Michigan, could have found a way to get rid of Jim Harbaugh. There's the two of the openings that are probably the most important in the NFL when it comes to trying to lure Jim Harbaugh back to the NFL are open. So this could have been easily the year in which it was like, all right, bye. But I'm told Jim is feeling the love in the biggest way, and that is the most important thing when it comes to Jim Harbaugh is, does he feel the love? And I don't know 100%, but I was essentially told like he wasn't really feeling the love before, even through the beginning stages, or even like a week and a half ago when it came to this contract extension business. Now he feels the full love of the University of Michigan. So that's a funny, different consequence about this entire scenario, is that they tried to get rid of Jim Harbaugh. Again, remember, this is a political campaign. This is not just Connor Stallions did something and whatever. This was all aimed at getting rid of Jim Harbaugh. If it could have worked, but what they ended up doing was overplaying their hand by trying to pressure the Big Ten to get rid of him this year, to make it so he didn't coach another game or was out for the rest of the season at some point. He could have just finished out the year and just been gone of his own volition, but they basically galvanized Michigan to this point where now he's feeling the love. Contracts approved is just a matter of a formality at this point. So it's just funny how some of these things work. But nonetheless, it's a situation where you hope that it doesn't come to having to use your missiles, right? The threat of mutually assured destruction is different than mutually assured destruction. We want the threat of mutually assured destruction to work, we don't want actual mutually assured destruction here, right? Because even though there is a confidence, certainly, that the injunction is going to be approved, Michigan's ready to go. They've got everything in order. I mean, they are playing everything masterfully over the last week. Once they kind of understood the battlefield they were playing on, they had everything kind of planned accordingly. And it's wonderful to see, considering how disjointed Michigan has long been. But it is not a situation where you want to see it necessarily go to nuclear bombs being tossed at each other. So that's that. All right, we're going to move on. I do want to actually talk some football a little bit. Let's get into Penn State just for at least a moment, right? I think that's worth doing. So we'll do that momentarily. Before we do, if it's Saturday, I mean, tonight you've got some football, college, pro, all that. I mean, you have college. We had MACtion going on yesterday and all of that. There's basketball, that is a thing again. You can have a little bit extra fun while you're watching those games. You get involved in Prize Picks. Now, what's Prize Picks? Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you versus the numbers. And instead of battling all some pros and sharks and all these people who do this for a living and really can take advantage of you, you're not going to end up on the leaderboard. It's just you versus the numbers. You pick more than or less than on a 2 to 6 player stat projection, and then just watch the winnings roll in. So with basketball season here, you can outpick combo projections across football and basketball with the Specials League. That's a pretty cool thing that they've got. It's a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 to more players from different sports. So say like you want to take Travis Kelce in the receptions and you want to take LeBron James with 3-pointers or something. You just do the more or less than with with that combo. And if you want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like Meek Millie or comedian Andrew Schulz, you can do so now in the community plays, which is under the promos tab of the app. So you've used those entries, and there's some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community every single week. It's a heck of a lot of fun. So I highly recommend that you go and take advantage of that, whether it's during the whole Michigan game of it all. You can add a little bit extra added incentive for you wanting your own Wolverines to win, or do it with another game. You can do all that by going to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege, using the promo code LockedOnCollege for first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege with the promo code LockedOnCollege with for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy. All right, so it's my birthday. I don't love advertising it. I love my birthday. It's not that. It's just I'm not a shameless self-promoter. I was at one point in my life when I worked in Hollywood. I'm not a shameless self-promoter, but yeah, I don't know why I had a point of telling you that. I can't remember what it was. I said wait till segment 3, told myself, and then I forgot. So I think it was just because I was going to say that we're going to try to make this a little shorter. We're already kind of at our normal length at this point, so I guess that's not the case. But I'm excited. It's a beautiful sunny day out. Sarah's coming over soon. We're going to go to the Christian bookstore, I think. You know, nothing crazy today. Traveling to Happy Valley tomorrow. I'm pretty tired because I haven't really had much of a break. I did take a little bit of a break yesterday. I was like, I'm going to take a break and watch some Joel Klatt, and I fell asleep. Fell asleep on the couch at like 7 p.m. So that was good. And then at like 11, I was back to it, talking to colleagues, talking to sources, all that stuff. But we do have a game to talk about, and it is a top 10 matchup. It's Michigan at Penn State. Penn State's my favorite place to go. It's going to be an increasingly hostile environment, in large part due to, it already is a hostile environment, but it's even more so just kind of given that if you tune into this show, whether you are a Michigan fan or, a rival fan, if you regularly have tuned in every week for the last couple of weeks, we've told you what is happening, not what I think is happening. Sometimes I do give you some opinions. Sometimes they're informed opinions, and sometimes I might bend the truth and it's not exactly an opinion. And it's a little bit more of a fact that I tell you as an opinion. You have no idea of knowing. There's been a lot of criticism on the show for a lot of good reasons. But doesn't make it not an opinion. It's just an opinion that's informed by fact, right? So anyway, it's with this game, I've long told you that Michigan has some special plans, particularly offensively, for Penn State. Don't be surprised if you see some things that you did not expect, because Penn State will probably see a lot of things that they were like, we watched all year and we didn't see this at all. Right? That's the benefit of not playing a ranked opponent until week 11, is that you can kind of just go through and do things a certain way, and where in actuality, when you know that your schedule is backloaded, you have plans to unleash the fury later in the year. So there's that. Now, Penn State, obviously, they've got Drew Aller, former 5-star quarterback. He's had his moments where he's looked really good, but it's not really throwing the ball super far downfield. Saw a few of those come against Indiana. I didn't watch the Maryland game, so I don't know if he hit any long passes in that, but that was like kind of the first time they had any explosive plays. Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton, obviously are those danger men for them. Katron Allen seems like he's a little bit better. I'm not looking at the stats. I'm just kind of going off of eye test from what I've watched. I've seen probably 4 or 5, at least bits and pieces of 4 or 5 Penn State games this year. But they are certainly the ones that are a threat to Michigan. Now, they've only seen one defense that's in Michigan's stratosphere to this point, and it was Ohio State, and they scored 12 points. They weren't able to get a heck of a lot going. They scored a touchdown when the game was basically done, right? When they were down 20-6. And then, so I don't know, right? Like, they might have some things planned for Michigan as well. You play games for a reason. Football styles make fights. That's why transitive property isn't always the greatest thing to go on. Someone just might have your number on any given day. As much as Michigan says things like, they have full focus, I've heard many, people close to the program that says they have full focus. Certainly the players, who knows how much of a distraction all of this stuff really has been, but certainly they've been waiting for this moment all year long. So you hope that it isn't much of a distraction. The bigger issue, obviously, is on the other side of the ball for Michigan. It's the defense. The good news for Michigan is J.J. McCarthy still exists. The bad news for Michigan, I think, is J.J. McCarthy has to play at least at the level he did against Michigan State, which to me was his best game. He was just making NFL caliber throws all game. You have to play like that. Penn State is first in the conference in turnover margin. JJ has only turned the ball over in one game, 3 times in one game, but only in one game. So he can't go in there pressing. But one place where I think that I have some confidence in Michigan in this game too is Michigan weirdly has played better on the road than it has at home, which is not something that we have ever really seen, at least in, I would say, my lifetime. I mean, there was years I wasn't paying close attention, but certainly in the Jim Harbaugh era, we have not seen a team that has looked more pedestrian at home than it does on the road. On the road, they just seem to thrive in that environment. An environment that would kill a lesser man, right? So I think that that bodes well for Michigan. I mean, they've gone into Happy Valley. A lot of these players have played in Happy Valley because it's only been 2 years, and they've eked out a win. And they had to eke it out a little bit, even though they dominated most of the game. They still didn't find their way in the end zone. They got a lot of pressure on Sean Clifford, and yet he still made plays. They still found ways to make it work. Hassan Haskins took things over. Run game has not been what you would hope it would be. Penn State has been sacking the box a little bit more, but they're also blitz heavy under Manny Diaz. I think that there's certainly a chance Michigan has a plan for Manny Diaz. They did last year. So it will be interesting to see how that goes. I would say I'm still pretty confident Michigan wins the game. I think Michigan's a better team than Penn State, but whether it's the outside factors, game planning on either side, and execution, there's a reason why they play the games, but this is the first time that there's a real test. Again, talking to a colleague, we both said it's kind of bizarre after all year when it was every single game was Michigan's going to win, but by how much, that finally we're in a place where Michigan actually could lose this game. So it's interesting that it's kind of a weird feeling, and I'm sure a lot of you feel that too. But I think Michigan honestly will win by multiple scores, because I do think Michigan is a better team than even Ohio State. Again, not to transitive property things. It's a different style of team. I just think Michigan's offense is better than anything Penn State's seen all year, and Michigan's defense is at least as good as Ohio State's. So if I was to give you a score prediction, I would put it, because we'll do that today since tomorrow, Friday, it might be a little bit harder to do a podcast because I'm going to hit the road and we'll try to get one out. I'm going to say it's probably in the, I'll say 37-11. I know it's a weird score, but that's what comes to mind. That's what I'm going to do with it. 37-11, Michigan over Penn State. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will be back hopefully on Friday, maybe even Saturday, and definitely on Sunday. That's where we're at. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace.